Hello, everybody, and welcome into this latest edition of the Michigan State Spartans Insider Podcast. I'm your beat reporter for Michigan State Spartans on SI, Aiden Champion. And today, want to get into some hoops talk. I know we got a long ways to go before the 25-26 season, and we've still got football somewhere in between there as well. But um, always fun to talk Michigan State hoops. Um, and obviously we've talked about before that this team is in a very interesting situation, comes off an Elite Eight run, a Big Ten title. You lose your top three scorers, and there's been some new additions, and you're returning three guys from, well, four key guys from that team. I think of the three more prominent ones being Jeremy Fears, Cohen Carr, and Jackson Kohler, and then Carson Cooper, of course, is going to have is expected to have a bigger role this next season. But um, the success of this year's or next year's team is going to rest really on the returning guys, veteran guys who were all just big parts of that run, that tournament run, and that Big Ten title season. But all three of them, you know, weren't necessarily leaders just yet for this team last year, and they're all going to be stepping into more significant roles. And I want to pose the question because I think all three of them could have. Well, I keep saying all three. Carson Cooper can also have, a big leap this year. I want to. I'm really thinking about this core three of Fears, Carr, and Kohler, and I want to pose a question: which one is going to take the biggest leap? Um, I think it's really close between Cohen Carr and Jackson Kohler. Fears, I do anticipate him being better. Um, I really liked what I saw from him last year, but I think we've just kind of learned that Jeremy is more so just a pure floor general. He can be a great scorer, is an all right shooter from deep, but I view him more as strictly a floor general, facilitator, and I think that fits his role best. He doesn't need to be, one of the top scorers. It certainly helps when he's hot and he's, driving to the basket, and um, he does give you an extra weapon, scoring weapon offensively. But I just don't anticipate him being much more than that. Um, I think he's going to grow as a point guard, and that's really going to be kind of his role the rest of his career. I could be very wrong. He could end up being, um, let's say, 2 years from now, could be the team's leading scorer. I don't know, but I just don't see that necessarily in his future. Um, I don't view him as one of the key scorers, but again, could be proven wrong. So then I look at Cohen Carr and Jackson Kohler, and like I said, I think it's really close. Who could take the biggest leap? Because Cohen, I do think he's going to be your guy, at least going into the season. He's the one. He's going to be a NBA prospect next year. gonna be, I think he'll develop in his shooting, but I don't see him, being a reliable shooter from deep that you can count on. Um, you know, if you need a three, I don't think you're going to Cohen Carr. Um, but I just think his scoring and his aggressiveness are going to go up, and he's really going to um, flourish this next season. But for the sake of this question, I think Jackson Kohler takes the biggest step because he's been on a steady incline throughout his career. Had a great year last year, and I think he just showed so many signs of a guy who can really be one of the best big men in the Big Ten. I anticipate him being a second, maybe first team. Don't hold me to that. I'd say second team All Big Ten next year. I really do think that could very well be in his future. His shooting has only gotten better. His post work has been great. He's become a better passer. I just think that when he is on, the team is great, and I think that's going to be crucial next year. They'll go as far as he takes them. I really do anticipate a big year for Kohler, because I just think he's a well-rounded player. I think he's going to get stronger this offseason, be more of a dominant presence in the paint. Um, and then he's going to hurt you from outside. And um, I'm very excited to see what Jackson Kohler does. Again, it's very hard. I think it's a toss up with him and Cohen Carr, because Carr, um, I, I I also anticipate him really taking control and um, really being the guy for this team. But I just don't know what areas he necessarily will get drastically better in. Um, I think he'll get a little better in each area. I think that I'd say the same for Jackson, but I just think Cohen, there's n not going to be, he's not going to become a great shooter over the offseason. Um, I think as an athlete, he's already got all the intangibles. He's a naturally gifted athlete, and I think that's something that he's going to be able to rely on next season. Um, so excited to see both of those two. Um, but if I had to say, I do think Jackson Kohler is the one that really, makes the leap and becomes one of the best big men in the Big Ten. Would love to know your guys' thoughts. Um, I you know, I think it's a fun conversation because I think any one of those three, Jeremy, Cohen, or Jackson, could really take the reins for this team, or all three of them together, because that's what we saw last year. It was a collective unit. That was the biggest strength of this team, was strength in numbers, how deep they were. Um, and of course, I keep leaving Carson Cooper out, but he's just strictly a center. You're never going to catch Carson Cooper outside. And um, I think what he already does great is just going to be what he continues to thrive on, and not much else. And that's rebounding and defense. So, um, I do, I'm expecting him to get a little better offensively. But I don't know if they necessarily need him to, because that's not what they needed last year. You didn't see Zappallo or Cooper really, um, dominating scoring wise. That's not where a lot of their points came from, were from the center position. But again, let me know your thoughts. I think it's a fun little discussion. So Hope you all had a great weekend and continue to have a great weekend. And we will catch you next time. Thank you.